All right, we are going to get started. Good morning for everyone who is joining. Sheryl here. And first things first, I want to let everyone know, because we are a community here, that my brother is in Santa Rosa, and as of right now, his house is okay. A lot of people have reached out and asked, so thank you for doing that. And he is all good. Today, we are going to be talking about how to gain a purposeful mindset, because this is incredibly important, because many people feel that people that have a hugely purposeful mindset were put on this planet. Let's say they're CEOs, or let's say even thinking back to someone like Martin Luther King, or maybe Mark Benioff, who is running Salesforce, and all of these different people. A lot of times we have the misconception and put other people up on a pedestal, and it's true that other people are incredibly amazing. But you know what? Having a purposeful mindset is something that's available to everyone. And this discussion is very timely, and it's important, and it is very current, because coming up in the middle of November, I wanted to share with all of you who are on the call that I'm going to be talking about this very same topic on the One Thing podcast. It's taping on November 15th, and it's going to be this exact topic, and there will be probably upwards of a few 100,000, a million people listening to this content. So I'm so excited to bring it to you in this very intimate setting. So today we're going to talk about how to gain a purposeful mindset. Now, whether you think that you are a world-class performer or not, I feel that you are, or you have the possibility of being one. Now, let me explain that a little bit. There's a lot that you have in common with world-class performers, whether you feel like you're performing at that level right now or not. World-class performers, whether they're world-class athletes or world-class CEOs or any colleagues that you put in that level, they have similar feelings that you do. They have similar things happen to you that you do. They feel anger, frustration, disappointment. They fail. Things get messy. They struggle. So I want you to understand that there are a lot of things that you have in common with them. But there's a couple things that they do a little bit differently, especially when it comes to having a purposeful mindset. It might be a little different, and it probably is. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So again, thanks for joining. We're going to hop right to it. I want to welcome everyone that's on the call. If you have any questions, go ahead and hold on to those. I am going to take them at the end of this call. This is a short call. We're going to get straight to the point. And so stick with me. And if you have any questions, I encourage you to ask them. I'm here for you. I want to make sure that this isn't just a half an hour of interesting content, but I want to make sure that it sticks with you, that you can apply it, and that you go about your day maybe even a little bit differently. So hang on to the questions. Now, there's 3 basic things that I'm going to share with you today on how to have a purposeful mindset. And let me explain first what I'm talking about. Whether you are talking about having a purposeful mindset regarding your entire career. In other words, why am I here? Am I doing the right thing? Am I in the right career? Should I make a shift? So I'm talking about being more purposeful long-term. I'm talking about that, but I'm also talking about how to be more purposeful on a daily basis. And I'm not just talking about career, talking about being purposeful in your relationships as well. So in other words, showing up to your significant other, how are you going to be purposeful about that? How do you feel about that relationship, and how can you be purposeful moving forward? In regards to your career, how can you feel more purposeful in that day? So it's for the short and the long term. These tips are going to apply to all of those, and it will help you gain more clarity in the near term and in the long term. So I hope that makes sense. So let's jump in. Now, the first tip that I'm going to share so you can be more purposeful is for you to believe that it's possible. Now, I know that sounds like a no-brainer, and I know it sounds like I'm telling you something that maybe you already knew, but listen to this because there's a lot of science behind it. If you believe that something is possible, it's more likely that it's going to happen. Now, let's look at the flip side of that and the consequences of not truly believing that being more purposeful is possible. Now, what happens is if you feel like let's say you're indecisive about something, you think that something is just too difficult, and being more purposeful is really not something that's available to you, then your vision is going to get very narrow. Now, if you feel like it's very possible for you to be more purposeful, in other words, maybe like I was mentioning in the long term, as far as are you in the right career, are you in the right relationship, are you doing the right thing in the long term, or in the short term, meaning how you plan out your day or how you plan out your week. Now, if you believe that you are capable of being more purposeful, then your vision is going to be more broad. Let me explain that to you. So when it came to scaling my business, I'll use myself as an example. When I got laser focused and really believed in my purpose that I could serve and help upwards of 10,000 people to be mentally tough by the end of 2018, I was very purposeful. And it wasn't until my mindset was really wrapped around that till my vision started to become very broad. Then I started tracking down people. I tracked down Jeff Woods of the One Thing podcast, and I was purposeful. So I was very diligent about talking to him and explaining to him my idea and why and how I thought I could serve his audience. So if I was less purposeful, then I wouldn't have really believed in what I had to do that was important. So I hope that makes sense. Having a more purposeful mindset is directly related to your self-talk. So it's very important that you believe that being more purposeful is possible, because consider this: we become what we consistently tell ourselves over and over and over. So if we're in a situation where we're confused or uncertain or unsure about our purpose, whether it's in the short term or the long term, we're going to start to believe that it's unattainable. But if we have a more purposeful mindset and we start to believe that that clarity is possible, then we're going to say to ourselves over and over and over that it is possible. I do believe I can become more purposeful. So that believing mindset is incredibly important. So the first tip to having a more purposeful mindset is to believe that it's possible. I know that sounds like it's simple, but it is just like you go to the gym when you're trying to get stronger, you have to work out for a while. It just doesn't happen overnight just because a trainer tells you how to get stronger. You have to actually do it. Well, it's the same thing with believing about being more purposeful. It's a muscle that you have to flex all the time, and the way that you can do it is via self-talk. Now, that is going to be something of how to do self-talk we're going to talk about on another day. The first tip to having a purposeful mindset is believing that it's possible, and believe it every day. Here's the second tip, and I hope that first one makes sense. The second one is you need to slow down. Now, by that, I mean a lot of times it's easier to go about your day and not to slow down, even though in your gut you know something's off. You know your purpose is off. You know that you're not planning your days quite right. You know that you're maybe in a career that's not quite right, or you know that you're just not quite as happy as you could be. And we just go about and we stay really busy and we don't slow down. Now, consider this. If you were a world-class athlete, and I make these analogies a lot because that's where I come from. I used to work with high-level world-class athletes. And so if you were a track athlete and you had a workout and it wasn't working, your times were not improving, you would switch gears, and you would switch gears quickly. But in order to understand how to do it, world-class performers slow down long enough to analyze what's going on and listen to themselves and plan it out, and then switch gear. So you must slow down. This is directly tied to personal agility. So slowing down is very vital to make quick decisions and make them in your best interest so you can make the most progress possible. If you look at I was just reading Forbes magazine, and one of the most prominent traits of leaders is that they make decisions and they make them quickly. These decisions are very difficult to make if you don't slow down. So the first tip to having a more purposeful mindset is to first believe that it's possible, and second, to slow down so you can plan your next move. And the third thing that we're going to talk about, and it's incredibly important, is getting intentional. World-class performers are very intentional about what they're doing. So if becoming more purposeful is important to you, you need to become more intentional about going after it. So if there is some uncertainty, either how you're planning your day, how you're planning your week, or maybe what you're going after on a long-term basis in regards to a career or anything else, and you need to get intentional about becoming more purposeful. So how do you do that? You might do that by trying to plan some time with someone who is incredibly purposeful, keeping in mind that most people don't start off with one career or one passion, whether it's a hobby or a career. It's not a clear straight line from A to B. It's a very circuitous route. And so it might be helpful to spend some time with someone who is very on purpose. So that might be incredibly helpful. But if you want to have a more purposeful mindset, it's important to get intentional about going after it. In other words, ask yourself, what can I do to be more purposeful about growing my business, more purposeful about choosing a career path, about strengthening a relationship, about what to do about a relationship. So get very intentional about that and intentional about making progress. So the three things that we've covered on gaining a more purposeful mindset, which is the starting place to becoming actually more purposeful. It starts with having a world-class mindset and having a purposeful mindset. And so this is the stepping stone. The first step is kind of like if you were going to build a house and the house was, your purpose, either in the short term or the long term, and you were going to either build this house on a solid foundation, which is meaning you have a purposeful mindset, or you're just going to keep your fingers crossed and build the house on quicksand. That's the analogy that I can think of. So gaining a purposeful mindset is an important first step if you want to feel more purposeful in your days and also in the long term. Now, let's just go over this real quickly. We talked about first how to gain a more purposeful mindset. The first thing was to believe it's possible. Sometimes things get very difficult. They get messy, they get frustrating, but it's very important to believe in the possibilities because we are what we consistently tell ourselves. So we need to believe that it's possible and flex that muscle and flex it often. Repeat to ourselves over and over and over that we believe in the possibility of being right on purpose. The second thing is we need to slow down. Whenever world-class performers, they need to do something or change something, it's very important to slow down because it's very difficult, if not impossible, for us to focus on more than one thing at a time. And it's easier, it's human nature to stay on our busy schedule and keep doing what we're doing and not really think about that feeling inside of us that's really uncomfortable, knowing that how we're spending our days isn't quite right and how we're spending maybe our long-term vision, it's not quite right. So most people just stay on their path of being very busy so they don't really have to think about it because it's uncomfortable and it's going to require change, and people don't like change. But it's incredibly important that if you want to be world class and you want to be more purposeful, it's important to slow down and have that mindset of taking it head on and confronting it, making an appointment with yourself. I mean, making an important appointment with yourself to slow down. Raise the necessity of this. Book an appointment in your calendar to think about this. And the appointment in the calendar should have high importance. Importance, like if you had an important doctor's appointment, or if you had an appointment with your biggest client ever. Would you just blow it off and not do it? Probably not. Make that appointment with yourself to slow down and start thinking about making progress to become more purposeful and figure out what is best for you. You might do that on your own. You might journal. You might call a meeting or meet with someone you know that's very purposeful, and I can help you through that if you want to reach out to me. And then the third thing is get very intentional. You know, that is setting clear intentions about what you want, how you want to feel, and then committing to how you're going to go after it. Keeping in mind that world-class performers, whether in business or athletics, they're very intentional about how they go about doing things. They sit down, they plan it, they commit, they're very intentional. They don't sit back and cross their fingers and hope that their training routine is going to work better. They gather data, they gather research, they try things, they retry things. They're very intentional about what they want, how they go after it. So we're talking about how to gain a more purposeful mindset. The 3 tips that we went over is, the first one is to believe that becoming more purposeful is possible. Hey, Seema, welcome. And let me just go over that again because a couple people are hopping on. I know, I apologize for getting everybody up. We made this call an hour later because everyone was not so happy about getting up at 8:30 on Saturday morning. So I appreciate you joining at 9:30 on a Saturday morning. We're talking about how to gain a more purposeful mindset. And just to go over, the first thing we talked about is to believe it's possible. And again, reminder, this is a muscle that you need to flex. This is all tied in with self-talk. We need to think that over and over and over and over till we actually believe it. So first, believe you can be more purposeful in the short term and in the long term, depending on what's appropriate to you. The second thing is to slow down, make an appointment with yourself. If you have an uncomfortable feeling in your gut, and you know, I know you know when things aren't quite right, whether it's on how you're going through your daily routine, or if you have a big decision to make, you need to slow down and allow that time, make appointments with yourself so you can make progress and feeling more purposeful. And then thirdly, get intentional. What do you want? Okay, getting intentional, you need to get crystal clear. And if you're having trouble with clarity, you are not alone. You know, I haven't talked about this yet, but a lot of people come to me and they say, I have that uncomfortable feeling, but I'm not really sure what I should be doing. And how do I become more purposeful? I don't understand how. And so that is all directly tied into clarity. And that's a discussion for another day. But getting intentional, if you've fallen off purpose or you're not sure what your purpose is, then get intentional about making progress. You're not alone. This happens to a lot of people. As a matter of fact, the people who are the biggest anomaly are the people that know exactly what they want to do, and they're just on this path to go after it. They're not the normal ones. Everyone else is the normal ones. What's important is that we make progress to be on purpose. I believe that not only can we next level what we're doing, meaning feeling more on purpose, feeling more happy, I feel like we must do it. And I believe that we must do it, especially now in this time and day and age where there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. So the time is now. The time to do is now. It starts with gaining clarity and being more purposeful and gaining a more purposeful mindset. I hope this has been helpful. The 3 steps: believe that you can be, more purposeful and have a more purposeful mindset. The second one is to slow down and allow yourself some time to have some conversations with people, journal about this, to make a little bit of progress every day, and then to get intentional about what you want and how you're going to go about doing it. So I hope you understand that having a purposeful mindset is attainable, and it's not only attainable, I feel like it's vital, because when we are feeling very purposeful, then we're very on task and we're making clear and measurable progress towards something that's important to us. And there's a trickle-down effect. Let me tell you, whether you think that you're influential or not, you are, because people are watching you, whether your colleagues or your family, and also you serve as a role model. So this content is for you, but if you can live into having a more purposeful mindset, then you're going to rub off on others and there will be more goodwill to put into the world. So I hope you understand a little bit about what having a purposeful mindset is and why it's important. We've gotten a little bit into the how, and that is believing that it's possible, believing that you must slow down and making appointments with yourself. And also, too, to have a more purposeful mindset, you need to get intentional about what it is that you want and going after it and committing to making progress every day. So if you want more tips, tools, and habits, if you're not on my newsletter, go ahead and do that. As my dad used to say, the price is right, totally free. It's www.sherylkline.com. I have 2 groups that are opening up if you want to get very dialed in to your own clarity, if you want to learn how to build the proper mindset, to build a world-class mindset, and then to have the tools to be your absolute best and how to be a sustainable high performer. You can schedule a short appointment with me through my website as well, or private message me or flag me down. Anyway, I'm glad to have a conversation. It's just going to be 2 groups. They're going to start up in November. They're going to be limited to 10 people. And other than that, there's a lot of big things coming. I will let everyone know when the One Thing podcast is going to air. It's taping on November 15th. Speaking at VMware on Tuesday to their women in leadership. So that is exciting. I'll be looking forward to sharing how that goes and some of the content that I'm sharing there. And right now, I want to be very appreciative and thank all of you for joining on a Saturday morning, and see if anyone has any questions. You can go ahead and unmute yourself. Anyone? Questions?
When nobody's sleeping with you, we should sleep in the middle.
Anyone? Don't make me pick on you. All right, does anyone struggle with being purposeful or having a purposeful mindset, or have any questions about what I have talked about so far? You can go ahead and type it in the chat roll, or you can unmute yourself. All right, Annalise, I'm gonna pick on you. Any questions?
You know what?
No? All right, going once, twice. Anyone have any questions? All right, so this is being recorded. I'm glad to send along the recording if there's anything that you missed and anything that you want to go ahead and go over. Again, we're starting out with 2 groups, limited to 10 people. If you want to get a little bit past the what and the why about being more purposeful and gaining more clarity, and then a mindset around making clear and measurable progress, not just the mindset, we're going to combine the mindset with the tools to be sustainable high performers. That is starting, those 2 groups are starting on November 1st, and they will run through all the way through February. So we'll talk about that more. And please let me know if you have any questions. There are a lot of other exciting things coming out, lots of free resources. So if I can be helpful in any way, please do reach out to me. Thank you for joining on a Saturday, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time.